Welcome to Ageless by Rescu. This podcast is devoted to exploring the science of rejuvenation, uncovering the most trusted experts, the must-have products, innovations, and technology in the field of vitality, aesthetics, new beauty, and cosmetic enhancement. Jacine, I'm so happy to speak to you. I feel like this podcast is really two stories. One is the kind of the ageless story about the woman who completely re-engineered her life. And then the other one is about cystic acne, rosacea, problematic skin, and all the things that we're really interested in from an external point of view. So let's start with you, because I think, like a lot of great entrepreneurs and a lot of great stories in the beauty and wellness industry, necessity was the mother of invention. And you had to find a solution to a debilitating skin condition that had you so disconnected from who you were as a person that you started to not look at yourself in the mirror. And that's not a story I haven't heard before. And it's really sad, but gosh, isn't it the ultimate kick in the bum?
Absolutely. Like, for me, starting my brand honestly was not something that I ever intended to do. For the first 6 months, I even entertained the idea. I actually thought to myself, well, you're not smart enough, Jacine. You're not a chemist, because when I started, I wasn't a chemist, and I am now, but when I started, I wasn't. So for me, it was frustration, because I had been suffering from cystic acne at that time for nearly 20 years. And even though I'd gone to the dermatologist and I'd sought advice from beauty therapists and skin clinics, none of it was working. The dermatologist worked for a while, but it made my skin super sensitive. And so for me, it was sheer frustration of not being able to find an answer, but also to, like, looking at my beautiful mother, and she still even had acne. And I thought, so I'm not growing out of this. Like my brand, when I first started it, I had a brand prior, and I remember at 34 looking in the mirror going, this is great. Now I've got wrinkles and pimples. And I thought,
oh
this
my
is
God,
so
how
not
many
fair.
times have we had that conversation at lunch or dinner with friends? And it's like, whoa, wrinkles and pimples, perimenopause and period. My God, it's like the confluence of the worst things that could ever happen in your life kind of seem to hit. And it's interesting you should say 35, because that seems to be the age, that precursor age to, if I'm going to change anything about my life, now's the time.
Absolutely. I know the last time I actually also had makeup done professionally as well, I had the makeup artist, when I started sharing my journey of the brand and why I started it, she then poured her heart out to me to say that she'd been struggling with it for years as well. And the same, I had a stylist, and again, the same thing. I think acne is not something that's really spoken about, and yet 50% of adult women get acne, and the cosmetic industry hasn't really recognized this. Can I be honest? Most products that are on the market aren't suited for anyone who's acne prone. And so the challenge is that you go to use a product because you want to improve or something about your skin, or you go just use a foundation and you end up with major breakouts. So this is essentially why we created Rococo. It was specifically for people who do get acne prone skin, but also people who are super sensitive, because the challenge when you've got a sensitive skin is everything stings or burns. And so they become very hesitant on trying products because they've had such a bad experience with them. And nobody ever has just one thing wrong with their skin either, Baha. Like, most people have multiple things. Like, for most women, we will have wrinkles and pigmentation, or we will have wrinkles and
Absolutely.
acne or skin sensitivities. And so the challenge for them is they've almost given up on treating these other conditions in their skin because their sensitivities hold them back. So that is, again, why it was formulated. My children also developed eczema, and I get 3 types of eczema as well. So it's genetic. And so for me, I wanted to create something that would be safe for even a baby skin. Like, my baby granddaughter now is 6 months, but she was born with eczema as well.
One
And
of the
so
things that I was loved hearing about your story, and I wanted you on the podcast for this reason, you've just touched on it, is the multiple skin conditions that we have. And you're absolutely right. The cosmetic industry has to touch a broad range of things. So when we do go into a pharmacy, a cosmetic store, or even see our therapist, they always, even in the forms that we fill out, is what are your primary concerns? So
Yep.
we often tick the primary concerns being the visible things, but it's the invisible things that are harder to treat. I would like to peel it back a step, and I'd love for you, now that you are a cosmetic chemist and you're also trained to be a beauty therapist in your quest to heal your own skin and your skin conditions. Let's get some definitions in place and a little bit of the science. What causes adult acne, and specifically cystic acne?
So adult acne is essentially genetic. For most women, it will be genetic. So they'll either have a parent who has had acne prior. If they've got two parents, as my children do, it's a double whammy for them. So they've got two sets of parents. So essentially with the genetics of acne, there's a gene that basically chews through the vitamin A. And so they might have vitamin A in their diet, or they may be applying it topically, and it just goes through it very, very quickly. And this is why vitamin A and vitamin A alternatives, which is what we use, have been the mainstay for acne treatment for so long. So if you were to look at things like retin-A cream or Roaccutane, they're all vitamin A.
They are,
And so
yes.
vitamin A is regulating gene profile expression, but also skin turnover. And so essentially they have a genetic predisposition. If they were to get acne, say at 23 or 24, and they've no prior history of it as a teenager, it's often gynecological. So polycystic ovaries can often strike in our early to mid-20s. It's becoming more and more prevalent. It used to be the career woman's disease. It is no longer. And so if they've never had acne prior and they're suddenly starting to break out in cystic acne, my advice would be to go and get referred to a gynecologist and just check that you don't have ovarian cysts or that you don't have endometriosis, because they can cause issues with your skin, especially polycystic ovaries, because it elevates the testosterone that is naturally in our body, but it puts it on steroids, and that will result in acne breakouts, particularly for young women if they do have it.
So what is the difference between a pimple and cystic acne?
So a pimple is quite minor, and it's at the top of the mouth of the follicle. Whereas cystic acne, what ends up happening is you'll actually have the follicle split under the skin, and the inflammation will go to the surrounding follicles. And literally what the body will do is it will literally encapsulate it to control the infection. And that's what,
So
when
those
you get
boils and those raised kind of pustular mountains that you would see in cystic acne, that's actually the body's way of defending itself.
Correct. And you'll find that if you look at them, they'll have like 3 or 4 pores that are involved with it. It's not just one. So for anyone who gets acne, they can relate to this. They may have more than one, what we call a head on them. So there'll be more than one follicle that's affected with it.
Jacine, what about diet and you touched on hormones, but there's always the age-old thing, does chocolate give me breakout? Can milk or dairy products affect topical skin conditions? What is the science behind diet, nutrition, and lifestyle and acne?
Definitely diet has an impact. So if you are not acne prone, you eating chocolate is not going to affect your skin. But if you are acne prone, because it is genetic, they have shown with journal studies that drinking milk consumption or drinking any milk or dairy will elevate your testosterone internally, and you will end up breaking out. So
it's not the milk, it's the effect that it has on your endocrine system and the production of the testosterone.
Correct.
I understand.
And cocoa is the same. So we found with the adoption of the paleo diet, and there's so much more breakout. So things like cocoa, they've done journal studies on it where just one single consumption of 2.5 grams led to a 50% breakouts within less than a week. And that was just one consumption.
So it's not the sugar, it's the cocoa.
Sugar will do it as well, but
right. Because sugar causes inflammation. I mean, I think we're kind of well versed in, you know, that sugar causes inflammation. If you want to protect your skin and expand, you know, the health of your skin, you want to reduce sugar. But what does cocoa do? I'm sorry, I missed that specifically.
Cocoa has actually been shown in clinical journal studies to actually increase the percentage of breakouts by up to 50% within less than a week. Sugar, what it does is it actually, again, there are receptors in the sebaceous gland that respond to sugar. And what it actually does is it causes hyperproliferation. And when you've got hyperproliferation mixed with sebum that's not very fluid, it causes a clogging at the top of the follicle. And so they will end up having a breakout as a result of it. So sugar also lowers our immunity, which I believe you touched on as well. And that's a challenge for acne-prone clients because it means the bacteria can sort of take a hold and alter their microbiome.
Let's talk about that, because I think you brought up microbiome, and that is going to be, you know, that's the next kind of frontier in skincare. I have received that many invitations and press releases and products that claim to be probiotic, prebiotic, protecting the microbiome. What is the microbiome, and how does this play into the conversation around sensitive skin, acne-prone skin? And I'd love to talk about rosacea as well, because I know you're an expert in that area too.
Yeah. So the microbiome is the natural flora or organisms that are living on our skin. And the challenge is, because we live in a world of computer exposure where we get a lot of blue light exposure, we also live in a polluted environment. You know, unless you're living in the pristine Alps, you're going to be exposed to pollution or smog of some sort. And the challenge with that is it breaks down the skin barrier function. And when the skin barrier function gets broken down, the bacteria composition change. So it allows some bacteria to be opportunistic and to over-proliferate and overpopulate, and then they can overwhelm the good bacteria of the skin. So it's interesting because in acne, people who get acne, everyone has acne bacteria on their skin. But for those who actually get cystic acne, they have strains of acne bacteria that are not even present on a healthy skin. And healthy skins have strains of them that are not available on an acne client skin. And this is important because everyone's heard of our acid mantle, and it's what keeps our skin healthy. We don't want to kill off completely all of the acne bacteria. There are healthy strains that we want. What we want to do is diminish the ability of the virulent ones that cause inflammation to be able to take a hold of the skin and cause havoc. So you can do this through prebiotics in products. So things like chicory, inulin, these are classic prebiotics that a lot of manufacturers are using, including us as well. And these actually help to be a food source, and only the healthy bacteria can eat them. So it actually redistributes the percentages of bacteria on the skin, encouraging healthy bacteria to be present on there. And the great thing is the healthy bacteria are increasing hyaluronic acid. They're helping to stimulate collagen as well.
So the healthy bacteria actually has a role to play. The healthy bacteria
do. Yes, they have such a strong effect on aging as well. So probiotics, there's probiotics on the market, but most of them are more postbiotic, and it's the bacterial cell walls that still have an immunomodulatory effect on the skin. So it helps to encourage healthy skin microbiome and also healthy processes in the skin, such as regeneration and removal of skin cells that have been damaged. And, you know, it helps for them to be expedited from the skin.
Jacine, when you are formulating, so going back to your personal story, you went and trained to become a cosmetic chemist and a beauty therapist, and you opened a clinic in Townsville.
Yes.
And in Townsville, you were posting before and afters of your clients and you started getting a reputation for healing very problematic skin. And the problems that you were particularly addressing were eczema, rosacea, and cystic acne. And tell me about, I guess is there is there a connection between skin that's prone to acne to other skin sensitivities or autoimmune issues?
Absolutely. It's quite interesting because for years I only thought there were certain ways that acne could form. And then it was actually after I went to a naturopathic conference, and I'm not a naturopath, but I have a love of learning, that I realized that there were other pathways where acne can form in the skin. And one of them is a cytokine called interleukin-17. And what's interesting is that interleukin-17 directly causes acne formation, but it's also the primary cytokine of autoimmune disorders. So there is definitely a link with it. The other thing that's actually interesting is this actual cytokine often will present after the birth of a baby boy. So for many women, yeah, it's fascinating. Many women have a child, particularly a male boy, and what happens is, as when we're pregnant, our DNA of the baby and the mum are mixing. And when it's a boy, normally what happens, because their chromosomes are different, is when we give birth, the immune system will take away any rogue cells that are still left in the body, but occasionally they don't. And so what this happens is those chromosomes, which are XY, are not compatible with our XX, and the body triggers an immune reaction to it. And that's where you get autoimmune disorders occurring. A lot of women don't have autoimmune disorders before they have a baby. It's
That actually makes sense. Like,
yeah,
now that you understand how, I was reading actually today that there was a 14-year-old girl with leukemia, and they did immune therapy with her and changed her CRISPR cells, and they completely reversed her leukemia. And what you're saying is that the body has this kind of natural instinct to repel anything that's foreign. And so if a woman is pregnant with a boy and has these new chromosomes, I was, when you first started telling that story, I was thinking, oh, maybe her testosterone is elevated. But what you're saying is even deeper than that. It's actually a chromosome that is foreign to the body.
Correct. So when this first was actually discovered, it was by a doctor, and she was thought to be a little bit crazy. What she actually found was male DNA in women's bodies after they'd passed away, and they're like, how? And so we just know that sometimes the immune system doesn't work effectively, and it doesn't remove all of these cells from our body. And when it doesn't remove them, that can trigger, not always, but it can trigger an autoimmune response in the actual body. So yeah, there's so many ways that it can trigger. It's interesting too, because acne and rosacea are quite similar in some ways. So without getting too technical, there is a pathway called toll-like receptors, and acne is toll-like receptor 2 and 4, and rosacea is toll-like receptor 2. So they're very similar, and because they're similar, it can be often overlooked and misdiagnosed. And so we've seen clients who have got rosacea being treated as though they're an acne client, and they're not getting success because they're not targeting everything they need to do. And the same, it may be rosacea and they're treating them like they're acne. And of course, with rosacea clients, we actually need more nourishment for our skin. We need more ceramides because we've got a faulty skin barrier function. And most acne treatments actually dry the skin out. They don't replenish the barrier.
They do,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
so you're treating one, disturbing the other. And what about eczema? Where does that fit into the scheme of, acne, rosacea, autoimmune?
Eczema is primarily, again, genetic. 70% of it is a faulty skin barrier. So instead of skin cells being really tightly wound together like that, they've actually got a crack. And so what happens is external influences such as dirt, detergents, the environment, pollution, those little micro fissures in the skin allow those things to get into the skin, and they go down to the layers of the skin where they shouldn't be. And again, that sets off an immune response. 30% of eczema is actually from a true allergy, where they actually are eating something that they shouldn't be eating, or they've got a true allergy to something, but the majority is not. And so if you don't actually treat the skin regularly, it will naturally break down again, and they will have an eczema flare up. So eczema and acne are themselves not directly linked, but you'll find that people who have eczema generally have high immunoglobulin E and histamine levels.
Yes.
So we are reactive in general. Now, what's fascinating is that acne clients have high histamine levels too. So it's not a direct, it's more of an indirect link, but there's definitely a link with it. And we know also too that eczema clients have gut dysbiosis and dysfunction. So do acne clients, and so do rosacea clients. So rosacea clients have an overgrowth of your Helicobacteria pylori, and as a consequence of that, the gut and the immune system are all tied, as well as your brain. So if we have gut dysfunction, that is going to affect our skin, but it's also going to affect our mood, because that all three are linked: the gut, the skin, and the mind.
Wow. I mean, we hear this over and over again, but I love that you've explained it so thoroughly and so clearly. And then you went about creating a skincare brand out of your kitchen. Now, I say this with so much respect, because my background is working for, probably one of the biggest multinational skincare companies in the world. Yep. And for you to have financed this research yourself, gone out and bought small batch ingredients, because I don't know if anyone knows, but to buy active ingredients in small batches is expensive. It's expensive. Yep. So before you've done any marketing, before you've done anything, you have to buy the raw ingredients, multiple raw ingredients. And then you have to make a lot of bad batches before you're happy with a batch. And then you have to test it, and then you have to get it approved. So, wow, how long did it take? And you said earlier you had another brand, and then it morphed into Roccoco Botanicals. But how did you go from concept and working in your salons, treating patients, to, right, I'm going to make my own products?
So initially what I did when I first started was I actually just started looking at the back of ingredient bottles. It's funnily enough, I'd been doing it since I was a child. Whenever there was a food package in front of me, I would read the back of it. I was just curious to see what was in there. And so I started looking at it, and then I actually got a few chemistry books and looked at what certain functional ingredients that were in cosmetics, things like emulsifiers, what their traditional percentage of use was. And so then I started breaking down the ingredient decks to try to work out how much of each possibly was in there. So my first batch actually took me 52 times for the first cleanser to get right.
I was about to, I'm not surprised, but I am astonished by your perseverance and your commitment, both in financial commitment, but also time. 52, that means 51 mistakes.
Yeah, and it's funny, like I look back at it now, and if I had have known what I know now, I probably would have got it right within about third time. Now most times I get it within about the first go, but we've recently launched some new products, and our coffee and cream mask took me 5 times to get right. So you never get it right the first go. So it was really just learning how to put things together. And then I started buying some books which had some basic formulations in it, but I never used what was in there, because again, the challenge was all of the ingredients they were using were comedogenic. And so I started researching for 17 years.
And let's just say comedogenic means that it blocks your pores. So sorry, I just want to make sure if you're listening for the first time.
So we essentially just started trialing things, and because my skin is so acne prone, I would try things on myself, and if it was problematic, I would generally find out quite quickly. And then I would offer it out to my friends at the time when I first started. Now my staff also test everything for me as well. They don't have to, but the offer is there if they would like to. And it gives us great feedback, with regards to it, because the testing on whether something is going to clog your pores is rarely done anymore. And there are so many new ingredients that come out into the market. And so without testing it, I don't know. And for me, I need to be assured as a brand owner that what I'm delivering to the market is going to actually help them. I don't want to be creating another problem for them.
So the thing I want the listeners to know is that your little enterprise from the kitchen and 52 mistakes before you got to a cleanser is now a multi-award winning, multi-million dollar, massively in high growth brand in the US, in Australia. You barely spent any money on marketing. It really works. And because it solves such a fundamental problem, it's word of mouth and retailers and customers. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Absolutely. As I've said to some of our suppliers, there is no way you can grow a brand to multi-million. Like, we literally did our first ad in September and we had to turn it off because we sold out. So, and we were about to do one in November, and then I thought maybe we shouldn't because we had Black Friday. So we're about to launch our second ad, like literally either today or tomorrow. But if your product is no good, you could never grow to that level, because as we all know, in this industry, people will go and leave a review. If it's negative, they're more likely to leave a negative review than a positive. Yeah. And so, you know, for us, it's been a testimony to the results that we deliver with our brand. And many of our customers have struggled for years before they've found us, and they've almost been about to give up. And yeah, it's fascinating. Like our body cream we've just launched, I hadn't have even thought of this, but someone I spoke to the other day, and it was a male, it wasn't a female. So that product is for everyone. And he has lost 70 kilos or so from gastric band surgery. And he was about to go and have basically the skin removed, but he's got tattoos all over him. And he didn't want to ruin his tattoos. And I hadn't even thought of how that would impact their lives for men who have lost weight, who don't, even women are the same, they don't want to ruin it. So to be able to give them an option for firming.
So you created a product that essentially tightens skin.
It's literally like a tummy tuck in a jar.
That is a big call. That is a big call. And I had a tummy tuck. Last year, I had my stomach separation fixed because I thought it's now or never. We're in lockdown. I'm going to get it done. And then while I was having that fixed, I had the skin tightened. And it was the most brutal experience of my life. It took me 6 weeks at least to stand up straight. It hurt. It like threw me out of alignment. It is the most brutal surgery. I was cut from ear to ear. I've been doing these videos about my scar revision, but, you know, and I always say to people, do not go down that path unless, you know, you really, really want to, and you really, really have to. But gosh, like if I had met you and you said to me, here is a tummy tuck, I mean, it wouldn't have solved my separation issue, but definitely the skin tightening, I'd be in. So are you know, what is the ingredient that actually, or what is the science behind skin tightening where you can topically cure it without an invasive procedure?
So with a lot of people who've lost a lot of weight, you've got loss of elasticity predominantly in the skin, and collagen. And collagen's really easy to produce, but elastin is not so easy to produce. And so most products on the market are not targeting elastin. So we're targeting the elastin in the skin. And I mean, honestly, when we first launched this product, can I be honest, Baha, it wasn't meant to be this good. I had already planned out 2 other products, and this was meant to be a general all-rounder, and then the results started rolling in, and we're like, what have we created here? This is phenomenal. So we had one client who'd lost 38 kilos, and she literally had like a bit of a flap from the excess.
I mean, it happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Even if you haven't lost a lot of weight, mums who've had babies who've gotten belly, like a mummy belly afterwards because the skin has been stretched and it doesn't snap back. And so the results started coming in. So one of the clients had used the product for 2 months, and literally there is no flap anymore. We have another client at the moment. We're getting trial results today. She's been using the product for a month, but she said within 3 days of her using the product, she could see a difference, and she's lost 70 kilos. So
can you use it everywhere? Can you use it on your arms? Can you use it on your buttocks? Can you use it around, one of the areas that I always get queries about is your elbows and knees. It's very hard to treat those areas.
You can absolutely. The only place we don't recommend it for is the face and the neck, and I certainly wouldn't put it on breasts either. So the formula is, besides firming the skin, it's lipolytic, which means it dissolves fat cells as well. So it helps to increase the thermogenic properties of the skin. So you're actually increasing the healthy brown fat and reducing the white fat, which causes cellulite as well. So this is what makes it so great, and it doesn't also give a burning sensation. There's a lot of products on the market for cellulite and firming, and literally they feel like the skin is on fire. They're incredibly unpleasant.
So that's because of the high levels of caffeine, which is traditionally used, right?
It's the actives that they're using, whereas what we're actually using is like an unroasted shea butter, and it gives a really, really cooling effect on the skin. So there's multiple actives in it. It's the shea butter, it's the avocado, it's lactobionic, it's multibionic, there's muramura butter, acai oil, takuma butter. There's so many of them. And one of the things I've realized over the last 4 years is that when I used to show and share my results with my suppliers, they were always quite shocked. And I started to realize it's sometimes not even about the ingredient. It's actually the way it's put together. It's like giving someone the same ingredients to make a cake, and someone creates a masterpiece and the other person creates something a little bit different. And so I think it's the synergy of the actives together, but it absolutely firms the skin up. Like every single person I've given it to has been wowed by.
I want it to be given to me. I don't know how
I'm going to send you one, but to give you an idea, I am so confident on this product. We're actually giving a 200% money back guarantee, because I know how many consumers have been burnt by products. And you see them all on social media and they're advertising, and then you read the comments and there's people saying, oh, these things don't work, and
well, my brain is saying these things don't work. And, I've got you on my show, and so I need to be super respectful, but
yeah.
Something that you said about, putting ingredients together, I think is really interesting, because I think there's the ingredients list. I think it's the way that you formulate it.
Yep.
But I also think, and laugh at me if you will, there is an element of magic. And the beauty industry is nothing if not alchemy.
Yeah.
And I have seen over and over again, I've been in the industry for a very long time, that often the special fairy dust is something unexplainable, and it's the founder's profound belief in what they're doing, or incredibly grounded intention to help people, that somehow seeps into the product and makes it better. And I'll tell you a story. I used to work for Estee Lauder group of companies, and I was at a training event in New York for one of the brands that I was running in Australia called Origins. And we were walking back from an event, and I was walking back with the head of R&D for the entire group. And I said to him, I have a question to ask you. I hope you don't mind. And he said, what? And I said, does La Mer really work? Because La Mer is an Estee Lauder brand. Yeah. And he said, look, when we bought La Mer from Max Huberman, we went into his laboratory and saw the process of how he was fermenting the seaweed and the way that it was all set up. And the brand has all this historical reference of being able to do so many incredible things. And he said, Max Huberman used to play music. to the fermenting seaweed. And we were kind of like, oh, can we skip this step as part of the production? But they decided to keep all the magic, all the secret sauce. And the head of R&D for Estee Lauder Group said, you know, Mr. Lauder and I, when we play golf, we always wear Le Mer and it works. So, you know, that's one of the biggest success stories in the world. And it's interesting that you have had this incredible successful brand that also has this kind of the beginning from a need, a desire, an absolute, you know, not a marketing vision, but a problem-solving vision. And I do believe somewhere along the line, there's fairy dust, and it happens every now and then, and it helps people, and it creates amazing brands that are remembered forever. So I'm excited for you, because when you're telling me your stories and when I read about you, I remember that story.
I think there's definitely something for intention and energy. And I dare say with the music that you were talking about, music is energetic. It changes our vibration. It changes how we feel. And so, I mean, they know that if you play Mozart to babies, they're smarter. It taps into areas of the brain and that are different. But definitely, I would agree with you on that. I think there's something about it. And what's interesting is whenever I set the intention of creating something new or fixing a problem, I literally, there will be things that drop into my inbox, which are exactly what I'm wanting. There's something with it.
There is a magic to it. And I also had the same conversation with Miranda Kerr. I've known her for a long time now, since she started her Cora brand. And, you know, she creates very intentionally. And, you know, she brings in crystals and words and her product development process. And, you know, if you just thought about it from a marketing perspective or a traditional pathway to creating cosmetic and skincare products, it would be counterintuitive. But there is an alchemy there, and her products are super successful and they work. And she has a cult following, not just because she's beautiful and she's Miranda Kerr, but because people return to the brand. And your success has been a return over and over again. What is the number one product in your range? What is if we were, I haven't tried anything, so I can tell you this is not an ad. I'm genuinely so curious about your story and your business. If I were to start, where would I start?
I would start with our Ruby Crystal Cleanser. This is the product that we won the LA Awards for. Our best product used to be the pore cleansing oil, but since we have released the Ruby Crystal Cleanser, it has been our number one bestseller. Like we basically are, you know, trying to keep it on the shelf. We're ramping up production. So it's an oily based gel that's got sugar surfactants in there. It's ultra hydrating, effortlessly removes makeup. It's great because it also treats pigmentation, calms inflammation, prevents breakouts, helps prevent the ramifications of mask wearing as well, and it's anti-aging and stimulates collagen. So it's like a 7-in-1 cleanser.
So you're not just an acne brand. So
no,
you are a skin brand.
Correct. Anything to do with skin is my passion. So we started out as acne, then we had to break that mold to go, no, we just don't do acne. We are phenomenal with anti-aging. So even if you don't have sensitivities, I think for most women, they just want to look as good as they can for their age. Like, I don't want to look 20. I'm 52. I just want to look good for my age.
And I think, you know, for me, that was absolutely the way that I approached when I launched Ageless. Is I don't care how old I am. I'm about to turn 49. It's exciting for me. I feel good. I feel better than I have sometimes in my 20s and 30s. I know how to regulate my hormones. I've had all my blood tests, genetic tests. I'm under great care. I use great skincare. I eat good food. And, you know, I'm way more informed than I was in my 20s and 30s. And in some ways I look better. So I totally hear you. And I love that, you know, someone whose passion is skin is creating products. I want to ask you a question. Does your Ruby Crystal cleanser have
Yes.
crystals in it?
Yes, it does have rubies in it.
Ah,
It does.
why
It does.
rubies? Why rubies?
They're known for their esoteric properties of healing and detoxification. So yes, it does have rubies. We also have a crystal stone range which has got platinum, diamond, sapphire, and I think it's gold in it
So
as
in
well.
the skincare?
In the skincare, yeah.
Well, we know that gold and silver and copper and also diamonds, pearls have
Yep.
been used in skincare before, which leads me to another question. You are going down the path of Indigenous ingredients. And to me, that again feels a little bit like the alchemy and going back to magical ingredients that have been used and tested and trialed for thousands of years. Tell me about what brought you to Indigenous ingredients.
So it's interesting. We'd naturally been drawn to them anyway and had started including them into our products. And then just from a chance, although I don't believe there are chances, business meeting, I happened to be connected with an Indigenous man called James Tribe. And so he had access to plants that are not normally available in cosmetics, such as gumby, old man's weed, which is your Centipede Cunningham. And so we are launching in the middle of the year for the first time Rococo Native. And this is all Australian Indigenous plants that have been used traditionally by the Indigenous community for healing. So that's exciting for us because some of the actual plants, we've managed to isolate compounds from them, which are for the first time being discovered in Australian plants. They've never even been known to even be present. And so we've partnered also with a scientist, Dr. Nicholas Sadgrove, who used to be the chief commercialization scientist at Kew Royal Botanic Gardens. So we've actually had these scientifically validated to show that they've got efficacy. But what was most mind-blowing for me was when we started down this journey is I just thought all Gumby trees would have benefit. No, they don't. So that was what was fascinating, that just because it's like a tea tree or a Gumby, they don't all possess the same capabilities of healing and
is that because
medicinal
of
properties.
the way that it's been grown or where
Correct.
it's grown? Yeah.
Correct. It's the soil, it's the nutrients, it's where it is. And so this was fascinating to me because I just assumed they'd all be the same, but no. And so we've actually tested and earmarked where all of these trees are that do have the maximum efficacy for their medicinal qualities, and they are the ones that we're using to extract. So that to us, that's really unique because no one else in Australia is doing this.
That is really, I mean, and it makes perfect sense, you know, when someone is ill or, for example, in cancer, one of the first things that they say is, you know, eat organic food, look for the best quality ingredients that you can ingest because, you know, provenance does matter, low pesticides does matter, the quality of the soil does matter. And, you know, we've become more and more aware of that. So it makes perfect sense that if you're formulating skincare, particularly for sensitive or sensitized skin or problematic skin conditions, you would want the source of the ingredients to be as pure as possible. So will Rococo Botanicals and Rococo Native sit side by side, or are they, is it one brand? How does that look?
It will be one brand. So we've got at the moment Rococo Professional, then we've got which is products that are exclusive in the clinics, Rococo Botanicals, we've also got Rococo Hair, and then we've got Rococo Native. And my intention eventually is also to bring out Rococo Baby.
Wow.
Because of my granddaughter and because I know that so many things are genetic, you know, it is a challenge for those people. Like we've got some of our clinic owners who've got grandbabies, or the clients have got grandbabies who've got skin challenges, and nothing on the market is working for them. And so everything that I do has always necessitated from a need. It's never been a commercial reason for doing something. It's just purely been a genuine desire to actually help people and alleviate their pain, because literally when you can't fix a problem, you are in pain. So for me, I love that. I mean, my background's nursing, so of course I'm a nurturer and I'm a carer. So for me, it's just a natural extension of it.
Well, I cannot wait to try everything in the range, but I also believe you're writing a book.
I am. So we are launching in late March my book called Just Go For It: How to Grow a Multi-Million-Dollar Business with No Paid Ads, which is literally our story of Rococo. So we've grown it, and in that book I share my insights and strategies of how I've done what I've done with no paid advertising, so that other people can then follow in my footsteps, because I believe by elevating other people, we elevate everyone, and it makes the world a better place.
Is there nothing you can't do? And I love the, as I said at the beginning of our chat, this is a multi kind of conversation. One is about adult acne, rosacea, eczema. The other one is about, launching a brand. But the sub theme of this is wisdom, experience, and the ability to use all of that experience to reimagine how you're going to be and who you are. And I think that makes perfect sense that of course you're also writing a book to help people in their business, as well as transforming how they feel about themselves and look. I want to finish by asking you, how did overcoming your skin conditions and challenges, how did that affect how you felt about yourself as a woman, as a businesswoman, as a mother, as a grandmother?
It truly was like such a liberating process, can I be honest? Like I think when you've got a skin condition, it impacts you psychologically so much. Like for me, when I was a teenager, I wouldn't wear certain clothes because it would show my scarring, or I would have a breakout on my back. And so to be able to be confident, to be able to look in the mirror and love what you see, that's gold. And it's not even acne. I know there have been children who have been 12 who are covered head to toe in eczema, and all they've wanted for their birthday is to look normal. And so I think for sometimes we don't understand how much it impacts the way that they perceive themselves. And to me, that's so important, because how we see ourselves and our perception of ourselves ultimately affects our self-confidence, and that also affects how well we do in life. It affects our mental state. So to me, to be able to overcome that and to be able to help others in the process, I couldn't have asked for a more rewarding career, to be honest.
Jacine, it was so lovely to meet you. It was really a pleasure. And I can't wait to hear about what this new year is going to bring for your business, and the growth that you're experiencing in the US and internationally, and here in Australia as well. But I just want to thank you so much. And thank you for creating the products that are helping so many people. It doesn't matter whether you discover a solution to a problem in your 60s or in your 20s, whenever something is, that aha moment comes, or an amazing product comes, or a solution comes, it's never too late. You're never too late.
Thank you, Bahar. It's been a
It,
pleasure.
it was so good to meet you.